This morning, the Los Angeles River looks more like an empty ditch. Forecasters believe the El Nino conditions in the Pacific Ocean remain among the strongest on record. Much of the rain that it brings to Southern California this winter will end up in the river. The 51-mile stretch goes all the way to Long Beach, where the water is simply lost to the sea. Ben Tracy shows us how that could change with a massive reinvention and a world-famous visionary.
The Terminator used it for a chase. In Greece, it was the scene of a race. And back in the 50s, the film Roadblock considered it a bit of a disgrace.
Where does this highway take us?
This is no highway, this is a Los Angeles riverbed.
Much of the LA River does look more like an oversized open-air sewer than a mighty waterway.
I think a lot of people didn't realize we had a river.
Los Angeles Mayor Eric Garcetti says restoring the river is a top priority.
People settled here because this was a beautiful land. I want to return that in the midst of a great urban center.
The flood isolates studios and stars in this drama of destruction.
After record flooding in the 1930s, the Army Corps of Engineers locked most of the LA River in a concrete straitjacket, transforming it into a flood control channel that sends water out to sea. In a typical storm, it's estimated about half of the rainfall, some 10 billion gallons, is flushed into the ocean. But now, in the midst of a deepening drought, finding a way to retain that water is vital.
So this is the LA River.
In a move that created a bit of controversy, the city turned to Frank Gehry, an architect famous for beautiful and brash buildings, to help devise a solution.
I think when people heard Frank Gehry and the LA River, they said, "What?" What was your reaction when they approached you?
Scared.
Gehry is a sheet metal success story. His buildings, including the Bilbao Museum in Spain and Walt Disney Concert Hall in Los Angeles, seemingly bend to the will of his imagination. His work is being celebrated at the LA County Museum of Art, and his life story told in a new biography titled Building Art.
Why the Los Angeles River with all these politicians and competing interest groups?
Just they asked me, and I'm a sucker. It's a big deal, and I thought I could help.
He and his team have been quietly working for free, employing the high-tech tools they use to design buildings to create a first-of-its-kind, in-depth imaging of the river.
It has to be a water project first, and then it can be a beautification. Once we know the rules, then we can play by them. I could imagine an incredible park system would really change LA.
More than 1/4 of Angelenos live within a mile of the river. Many are hoping to see much of it return to its wild roots, including George Wolfe.
Get out of the river now.
In 2008, he was nearly arrested when he led a group of kayakers down all 51 miles of the river. It had been off limits for more than 70 years.
If I had to draw a line in the sand, I would say remove concrete, sure. Personally, I think we've had enough of it since it was channelized, and it would be nice to have something a bit more reminiscent of how the river has always been.
But both Gehry and Mayor Garcetti say don't expect all that concrete to disappear. They want a river that's functional, but not so hard to love.
Luckily, we live in a time where the technology exists, where we can keep this a safe place for the flooding and also bring back the banks. And what other city in the world has that kind of opportunity smack dab in the middle?
For CBS This Morning, Ben Tracy, Los Angeles.
Wow, I would take some comfort knowing Frank Gehry was working on a problem that I was having. That's great.
Not cheap, though.
He brings creativity to the idea.
Oh, absolutely, but not cheap, though. $100 million per mile they're estimating this cost.
To remove the concrete?
Yeah, well, to make it all beautiful again.
Imagine if they fix it, Christine.
Oh, like the High Line. Remember the High Line
here?
That's the idea.
That's a really good analogy.